The sun over the Sonoran desert burned white as bone, a merciless lantern watching everything below. Wind carried the scent of dust and tired hope, brushing across the endless plains like a faded lullaby. A lone wagon rattled over the cracked earth, its wheels groaning with each jolt. The horses, ribs faint beneath their coats, pushed forward under the driver's muttered curses. Inside, the wagon sat Lark Winter, a woman not yet old but made older by grief. Her once bright auburn hair was tucked beneath a sun-bleached scarf. Her dress was patched and threadbare from months of travel. Across her lap slept her youngest child, Solace, only 5. His small fingers curled tightly around the fabric of her skirt. Beside her sat the others. River, age 11, sharp-eyed and quiet beyond his years. Briar, 9, with a spark in her that hardship had not fully dimmed. Ash, 7, trying his best to be brave, though fear often trembled at the corners of his mouth. Lark watched them with a tender ache. They were all she had left. Her husband, Rowan, had once promised her a garden, a little house full of music, evenings by a warm hearth. But dreams were fragile things. A mine explosion had taken him, leaving nothing behind but smoke, debt, and 4 hungry mouths. When the company told her she would receive nothing, not even his final wages, she had walked out without a word, clutching her children's hands. Then came the rumor. A distant settlement called Haven Reach, said to be hiring workers, food, shelter, safety. It was enough. It had to be. But when the wagon finally crested the ridge, Lark's breath caught. There was no settlement. Only the charred ribs of burnt-out buildings, a shattered corral, and a blackened sign half buried in ash. Abandoned, by order of the Territorial Guard. The driver pulled the reins. "End of the line," he muttered. Lark stumbled out, her boots sinking into lifeless sand. There must be some mistake. Haven Reach should be nothing but ghosts now, he interrupted. Raiders hit it clean. Anyone left, fled, or died. Her heart dropped into a hollow place inside her. "What do we do now, Mama?" River asked, but she had no answer. Only the relentless wind replied. The driver flicked the reins. "Next wagon won't come through for a month. Pray you find water if you head south." And then he was gone. Dust swallowed him, leaving Lark and her children alone in the dead settlement's shadow. Hours passed as the sun bled toward the horizon. Lark tried to build a small fire against a half-fallen wall, her hands trembling with each failed spark. The children huddled close, hungry and frightened. Then she heard it, a slow, steady rhythm rising from the far desert, hoofbeats. Her breath caught, fear surged through her. Raiders? Outlaws? A lone rider emerged from the dusk, tall, steady, a silhouette carved against the copper sky. A painted horse stepped lightly beneath him. His dark hair was braided with a raven feather, his posture calm, commanding. As he approached, the dying sunlight caught his face. Sharp, strong, watchful. He stopped a few paces away, dismounted, and spoke with a voice as smooth as riverstone. "You're far from safety," he said. "My name is Hawkwind. Why are you here?" Lark swallowed hard. "We're lost," she whispered. Hawkwind's gaze softened as it fell on the 4 tired children. "You won't survive the night out here," he said. "Come. I know a place where you can rest." And in that moment, between fear and hope, Lark Winter faced the choice that would change everything. Lark hesitated, the weight of 4 small lives pressing on her shoulders. The desert wind hissed across the ruined settlement, carrying the cold of nightfall. Hawkwind stood before her, still, patient, offering neither threat nor urgency, only calm certainty. River stepped in front of his siblings, chin lifted, trying to look braver than he felt. "Mama, he doesn't look mean." Hawkwind dipped his head respectfully to the boy. I mean no harm. The night will be bitter. Your little ones. His gaze softened on Solace's sleeping form. Need warmth. Lark clutched the small flint knife hidden in her skirt. Her heart hammered. Every tale she had heard about Apache warriors flickered like warning torches in her mind. Raiders, abductors, ghosts of the desert. But those stories had been told by frightened men who had never looked death in the eye the way she had. And she remembered Rowan's last words before he left for his final shift. Trust what you see, not what others fear. And what she saw now was this. A stranger who could have ridden past, could have ignored their hunger and despair, yet chose to stop. Lark exhaled shakily. If you mean us no harm, she said, we'll follow. Hawkwind offered his hand to River. You can ride with me. The rest will walk beside. The boy blinked, startled but grateful. He accepted. Lark gathered her children, each small hand fitting into hers like a fragile promise. Hawkwind guided them away from the blackened ruins, deeper into the desert. As they walked, the sky shifted from gold to violet, stars emerging one by one like cautious prayers. They traveled in silence, broken only by the soft thud of the horses' hooves and the whisper of sand beneath their boots. After nearly an hour, the land transformed. The desert floor dipped, the world opening into a hidden canyon where the air was cooler and the earth smelled faintly sweet. Peach-colored cliffs towered above them, layered like old stories carved into stone. Cottonwoods swayed near a narrow stream that glistened in the last light. Welcome, Hawkwind murmured, to quiet waters hollow. It felt like stepping into another world, a sacred pocket where danger could not easily follow. The children gasped at the sight of real water. Briar dropped to her knees, scooping handfuls of it, letting the cold liquid slip through her fingers. Solace woke and uttered a small, joyful laugh. Hawkwind built a fire with deft, practiced movements, using dry mesquite and fallen branches. He cooked strips of dried meat, placing them on smooth stones warmed by the flames. When he passed the food to the children, they devoured it with feral hunger. Lark accepted her portion last. As she ate, warmth flooded her chest. Gratitude, relief, and an emotion she didn't yet dare to name. When the children finally drifted to sleep beneath a cottonwood, Lark approached Hawkwind. Firelight painted shadows on his face, revealing the quiet strength in his features. You saved us tonight, she said softly. He shook his head. No, I simply saw people in need. His gaze moved to her children, then to Lark herself. Kindness is a river. When it flows, you must let it. Her throat tightened. Why help strangers? Hawkwind paused, his voice turning gentle. My mother once told me, the desert tests men, but mercy reveals them. Lark looked toward her sleeping children, their faces relaxed for the first time in weeks. Then she turned back to him. Thank you, she whispered. Hawkwind's eyes met hers, steady as the stars overhead. You are safe here, he said. And for the first time since Rowan's death, Lark Winter believed it might be true. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting long golden rays that warmed the canyon's cool stone. The air was still, almost sacred in its quiet. Lark woke to find the children still sleeping soundly beneath the cottonwood tree, their faces free of the shadows that had haunted them for so long. She stretched, her limbs stiff from the night spent on the hard desert ground, but the weight in her chest was lighter now. A sense of peace lingered in the air like the scent of pine, and for the first time in days, she felt the slightest spark of hope. Hawkwind sat by the fire, sharpening his knife with slow, methodical strokes. He didn't look up as she approached, but she could feel his gaze on her from beneath his dark, furrowed brow. There was something timeless about him, something that told her he had seen much in his years and carried it all without complaint. "You did not sleep much," she said quietly, a small trace of concern in her voice. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. Hawkwind's lips twitched into a half-smile. "The desert demands vigilance." Lark nodded. She understood. There was a certain rhythm to the land that one had to learn in order to survive it, a rhythm of silence and alertness, of knowing when to move and when to stand still. She had learned that the hard way. As the children stirred awake, Lark busied herself with gathering what little food they had left. Her eyes often darted back to Hawkwind, who had already mounted his horse, his gaze scanning the canyon walls like a sentinel. She noticed the way he carried himself, like someone who had spent his entire life in these rugged lands, knowing them intimately. And yet, there was something about him that was unspoken, like a song that could only be heard in the space between the notes. After breakfast, Hawkwind led them further into the canyon. The path was narrow, winding, flanked by steep cliffs on both sides. The air grew warmer as they descended deeper into the heart of the desert's secret refuge. Lark could hear the distant sound of running water, and as they rounded a bend, the sight before them took her breath away. There, nestled at the base of the canyon, was a hidden oasis, a crystal-clear pool of water surrounded by thick green ferns and clusters of wildflowers in full bloom. The land was lush and full of life. An unexpected paradise in the middle of a harsh, unforgiving desert. Birds flitted through the trees, singing melodies Lark had forgotten existed, their songs echoing through the canyon like whispers of long-lost dreams. The children gasped in unison. Briar, who had been quiet all morning, rushed to the water's edge, kneeling to dip her hands in the cool liquid. "Is this real?" she whispered, her voice thick with wonder. Her fingers traced the surface of the water, as though afraid it might disappear if she touched it too roughly. Hawkwind chuckled softly. "This place is real, child, but it's not meant for everyone. It takes a heart open enough to see it." Lark knelt beside her daughter, watching the water glisten in the sunlight. She felt a surge of emotion, an overwhelming sense of gratitude that made her throat tighten. This hidden paradise was more than just a place of refuge. It was a symbol of the beauty that still existed in the world, the kind of beauty she had almost forgotten to believe in. "Why did you bring us here?" Lark asked, her voice thick with the weight of unspoken questions. Hawkwind's gaze softened as he watched the children play in the water. "I did not bring you here, Lark. The canyon did. It is a place of healing, a place where wounds, both of the body and the spirit, can be washed away." Lark didn't speak at first. She just watched her children, their laughter filling the air, as they waded into the pool, their faces shining with joy. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Lark allowed herself to smile. By midday, the oasis shimmered beneath the sun like a forgotten jewel. The children splashed in the shallow water, their laughter echoing against the canyon walls, pure and bright, as if the desert itself had paused to listen. Lark sat near the shore, rolling up her sleeves as she washed their tattered clothes in the cool stream. The simple act soothed her, reminding her of quieter days long before loss had sharpened her life into something brittle. Hawkwind knelt nearby, checking the small cuts on Solace's feet. "He will be fine," he said gently. "The earth here is soft." Lark nodded, grateful for his calm presence. Yet a question tugged at her. "Do you live here alone?" Hawkwind paused, tying a strip of cloth around Solace's heel. His gaze drifted toward the canyon's entrance, a place where sun met shadow. "Not always," he said finally. There was a story in that answer, but Lark did not press. She sensed Hawkwind was a man who shared truths only when the land itself allowed it. When the children settled beneath a tree for a brief rest, Hawkwind motioned for Lark to follow him. He led her up a narrow ledge where a single tree, gnarled, wind-shaped, ancient, leaned over the canyon like a guardian. From there, the whole hollow spread out beneath them. Water snaked like silver ribbon. Wildflowers swayed in gentle patches. Their footprints dotted the sand below, temporary marks on an eternal place. "You brought us somewhere sacred," Lark said quietly. "This canyon has watched over my people for generations," Hawkwind replied. "It is a place of quiet and of truths." Lark let the wind ruffle her hair, breathing in the scent of mesquite and earth. "Truths," she repeated. "I'm not sure I want to face mine." Hawkwind turned to her fully now. His eyes, dark as storm-soaked stone, held a depth that made her chest ache. "You carry much sorrow." She tightened her arms around herself. "I lost my husband," she whispered. "And then everything else seemed to crumble too." "No," Hawkwind said gently. "You kept what mattered." Lark swallowed hard. Tears burned her eyes, threatening to spill. She looked away. He didn't touch her, didn't move closer. But somehow his presence steadied her like a hand on her heart. "Your children," he continued, "are strong because of you. You walk a hard road, Lark Winter, yet you walk it still." She exhaled shakily. "I didn't have a choice." "You did," he said softly. "You chose love." Something inside her cracked, softly, painfully, beautifully, like ice thawing in spring. Before she could respond, a sharp cry echoed from below. Briar's voice. Lark and Hawkwind scrambled down from the ledge, hearts pounding. They found the girl on her knees by the water, her hands shaking as she pointed toward the canyon wall. The boys hovered close, fear widening their eyes. "What happened?" Lark rushed to Briar's side. I saw someone," Briar whispered. "Up there, watching us." Lark froze. Hawkwind's expression hardened, his entire posture shifting, alert, silent, fierce. He scanned the cliffs, one hand already on the hilt of the knife at his hip. The air changed. The canyon, moments ago a cradle of peace, now felt taut with unease. "Stay behind me," Hawkwind murmured, voice low as distant thunder. "This land keeps many secrets, not all of them gentle." Lark gathered her children close, and for the first time since meeting him, she saw something in Hawkwind's eyes she had not seen before: fear. The canyon, moments ago alive with bird song and children's laughter, quieted into an unnatural stillness. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Lark pulled her children close, her heart hammering in her chest. She scanned the cliffs, searching for any sign of movement, but all she saw were jagged rocks and shifting shadows. Hawkwind stepped forward, his body poised with an animal's instinctive alertness. His gaze followed Briar's trembling finger to a narrow outcropping high above the pool. "What did you see?" he asked her gently, though tension roughened his voice. Briar swallowed. "A man, I think. Just for a moment. He was there, then gone." Lark felt her blood run cold. The canyon was supposed to be hidden, protected. If someone had found them, it meant danger was far closer than she'd imagined. Hawkwind's eyes swept the cliffs again, slower this time, studying every crevice. His voice dropped to a whisper only Lark could hear. "There are riders in these lands who do not belong here," he murmured. "Whites who come with fire, others who come hunting, and some—" He exhaled sharply. "Some who come looking for me." Lark stiffened. "For you?" "Not now," he said, though not unkindly. "We must move deeper into the hollow. The walls here are too exposed." He knelt beside the children, his expression softening. "Little ones," he said, I need you to walk quietly and quickly. Can you do that?" River nodded first, solemn and serious. Ash grabbed his brother's hand. Solace hugged Lark's skirt. Briar, still frightened, wiped her cheeks and whispered, "I'll be brave." "I know you will," Hawkwind said, giving her a small smile. He led them away from the pool, deeper into the canyon where the walls tightened and the light dimmed. Here, moss clung to stone, and the scent of damp earth filled the air. Lark stayed close to him, her mind racing. "Hawkwind," she said, barely above a whisper. "If someone is chasing you, they are not chasing," he cut in softly. "They are searching. There is a difference. Why? Who are they?" For a long moment he said nothing. Only the sound of water dripping from the canyon roof filled the quiet. Then he answered. "Months ago, a group of men came to these lands. Soldiers, bounty hunters, and others hungry for coin. They blamed my people for an attack we did not make. A lie carried by fear." His jaw tightened. "I refused to lead them through sacred land. They marked me as an enemy." Lark felt a chill crawl down her spine. "So, the man Briar saw? He could be one of them?" "Or a scout," Hawkwind said. "A thief, a deserter. I do not yet know." He stopped suddenly and lifted a hand. The children froze. Lark did too. From behind a boulder, a soft tap-tap echoed, too deliberate to be nature. Hawkwind stepped forward, knife drawn. He signaled for Lark to gather the children behind a cluster of stone. The tapping stopped. Silence fell again. Then, footsteps. Light. Careful. Approaching. Hawkwind moved quickly, rounding the boulder in a silent blur. Lark held her breath. A startled yelp rang out. Then Hawkwind's voice, sharp but surprised. "Easy. What are you doing here?" Lark's heart lurched. She rushed forward with the children behind her. Behind the boulder stood a young Apache boy, no older than 12, thin and trembling. His face was streaked with dust, his eyes wide with fear and relief. "Hawkwind," the boy panted. "They found your trail. Riders. 3 of them. They're headed this way." Lark felt the world tilt. And for the first time since entering Quiet Water's Hollow, she realized they were not hidden anymore. The air seemed to crackle with tension, thick and heavy, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Lark's heart thundered in her chest as she looked at the young boy, his face pale and smeared with dirt. Behind him, shadows lengthened across the canyon floor, and the distant sound of hooves could be heard growing louder. 3? Hawkwind's voice was low, a growl in the back of his throat. "Are you certain?" The boy nodded vigorously. "Yes, I saw them crossing the ridge line, not far from here. They wear black and red. They'll be here soon." Lark felt her legs weaken, but she forced herself to remain steady. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked at Hawkwind, hoping for some kind of plan, some way to protect her children, to keep them safe. Hawkwind's eyes flickered with a mix of determination and dread. He glanced at the children, now gathered close behind Lark, eyes wide with confusion and fear. River clutched his brother's arm tightly, while Briar's face was pale, lips trembling. "Listen to me," Hawkwind said, his voice sharp with urgency. "I need you to stay quiet, and you, young one." He turned to the Apache boy. "Lead us to the hidden path. We can't let them find us." The boy nodded again, his fear clearly giving way to a sense of purpose. He stepped forward, motioning for them to follow him. Lark's breath hitched in her throat. This was happening. This was real. She quickly scanned the surroundings, her eyes narrowing as she spotted a narrow opening in the canyon wall ahead. "Is that the path?" she asked. The boy shook his head. "It's not safe there. The hunters are too close. We need to go through the caves on the north side. It will lead us to the underbrush where they won't see us." Hawkwind nodded. Then we move fast and we move silent. Briar, River, stay close to me. Lark's heart tightened as she pulled Solace to her side, and Ash wrapped his tiny hand around her finger. She could feel the weight of their safety in her hands, the pressure of protecting them, of keeping them safe no matter what. They began to move, following the boy as he led them toward the caves. The canyon walls closed in around them, the rocky path narrow and treacherous. Lark's feet slipped on the uneven terrain, but she kept her pace steady, not daring to look back. The sound of hooves grew louder, closer now, the clop-clop echoing off the stone as the riders made their way into the hollow. Every step Lark took felt like a countdown. The time for escape was running out. The Apache boy glanced back at them once, his face tight with fear. They'll pass through the entrance of the canyon soon. We have to hurry. Hawkwind's hand reached for Lark's, squeezing it for a brief moment. Trust me, Lark. I won't let them harm you or the children. Lark nodded, her mind swirling with conflicting thoughts, fear, love, hope. But in that moment, something deep within her shifted. She wasn't just running to save her children anymore. She was running to protect everything that had ever mattered to her, to protect the life they'd fought so hard to build. As they reached the caves, Lark caught a glimpse of the riders in the distance, their dark silhouettes just visible against the canyon's mouth. The time for hiding was almost over. But there was no turning back. The cave swallowed them in cool darkness, the air inside damp and humming faintly with the sound of dripping water. Lark tightened her grip on Solace as the children clung to her skirt, their small breaths trembling in the confined space. The Apache boy moved ahead with confident steps, his silhouette illuminated by slivers of light filtering through cracks in the stone. Hawkwind stayed at the rear, eyes sharp, movements controlled, every sense tuned to danger. His presence steadied Lark, even as fear clawed at her chest. The cavern narrowed, forcing them to walk in single file. The walls glistened with thin sheets of mineral deposits, like pale tears streaking down ancient faces. The air felt cold enough to raise goosebumps on Lark's arms. "Is this place safe?" River whispered, his voice trembling despite his efforts to sound brave. "Yes," Hawkwind murmured from behind him. "These caves protected my people for generations. Outsiders rarely find them." "Rarely," Lark repeated softly, her voice trailing off into a shaky breath. Hawkwind heard the fear in her tone. "They will not reach us here." Lark wished she could believe those words completely. A sudden, distant echo, sharp, metallic, rang through the tunnels. Solace whimpered, burying his face into Lark's shoulder. Briar froze. "What was that?" The Apache boy stopped, turning back with wide eyes. "They're at the canyon mouth, trying to track Hawkwind." Lark felt her pulse spike. "We have to keep moving." "We will," the boy said, "but quieter now. The walls carry sound." They continued deeper. The cave widened into a chamber where a soft glow filtered through a high crack in the ceiling. Moss glimmered faintly green, fed by the thin thread of sunlight. It reminded Lark of a hidden cathedral, silent, reverent, watching. Hawkwind stepped beside her. "Breathe," he whispered. "You are not alone." His voice eased the tightness in her chest. She nodded, feeling her strength return in small, steady waves. But just as hope began to settle, another sound cut through the cavern, closer this time. Boots sliding on loose stone, a muttered curse, a low chuckle, voices, male voices. Lark's stomach dropped. The riders. Hawkwind's jaw clenched. "They followed my trail," he hissed. "Clever. Too clever." The Apache boy stepped forward. "There's a hidden passage up ahead, but it's narrow. Only one person can fit at a time." "How far?" Hawkwind asked. "Not far, but we have to hurry. If they reach this chamber—" He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Hawkwind knelt swiftly before River, Briar, Ash, and Solace. "You will go first," he said, his tone firm but soft. "Follow the boy. Stay together. Do not stop." River nodded, chest puffing with courage. "What about you?" Hawkwind touched the boy's shoulder. "I will come after. Lark will be right behind you." Lark felt panic rise. "And you? What if they catch you?" His eyes met hers, dark, steady, full of a quiet vow. "They won't." The rider's footsteps grew louder, echoing off stone, closing in. Hawkwind cupped Lark's cheek briefly, tenderly, the warmth of his palm grounding her. "Take your children," he murmured. "I will protect your path." Her breath hitched. "Hawkwind, go!" With shaking hands, Lark ushered her children toward the slit in the rock. The Apache boy squeezed through first, then River, then Briar and Ash. Lark pushed Solace gently after them. She turned back once, heart screaming. Hawkwind stood in the chamber's center, tall, unyielding, knife in hand, facing the tunnel where the riders' shadows flickered like approaching wolves. He gave her a single quiet nod. "Run, Lark Winter, and do not look back." But as she slipped into the narrow passage, tears burning her eyes, she knew one truth with absolute clarity. She would look back, because she could not bear the thought of leaving him behind. The narrow passage scraped against Lark's shoulders as she squeezed through, her palms sliding over cold stone. Ahead of her, she heard the soft scuffle of small feet, River guiding Briar, Ash helping Solace. The Apache boy murmured directions in a hushed tone, his voice steady despite the danger behind them. But Lark couldn't focus on the path ahead. All she could hear was the echo of boots in the chamber they'd left. All she could see, burned behind her eyelids, was Hawkwind standing alone, knife drawn, jaw set, ready to face danger for their sake. Her breath shook, her heart hammering so loudly she feared the riders would hear it through the rock. "Keep moving, Mama," River whispered from ahead, his voice trembling. "We're almost through." She nodded, forcing her legs to follow the children. The passage narrowed even more, twisting like a serpent. At one point she had to turn sideways and inhale to slip between two jagged walls. Behind them, a man's shout echoed, then another. Lark froze, terror gripping her spine. A harsh voice chased their steps. "There! Someone went this way!" Lark pushed forward with renewed desperation. The Apache boy's voice floated back to her. "We're close. I can see light." A faint glow appeared ahead, daylight, shining through a screen of brush and vines. When they finally burst free of the rock's grip, they spilled onto a flat shelf hidden behind thick desert greenery. The air here was different, warmer, open, alive. The little ones scrambled away from the entrance, panting, eyes wide. Lark turned back at once. "Hawkwind," she breathed. "He's still in there." River grabbed her arm. "Mama." "No, he told us to run. I can't leave him." A sudden sharp clang echoed inside the cave, metal striking stone, a grunt, a thud. Lark's blood turned to ice. Ash whimpered, covering his ears. Briar clung to Lark's skirt, tears pooling in her eyes. "He'll die," Briar whispered. "He stayed all alone." "Mama, he saved us." Lark felt something fierce ignite inside her, love, fear, and a rage she didn't know she possessed. "No," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "Hawkwind doesn't die today." Before she could take a step back into the passage, a small hand reached hers. The Apache boy. "You can't go in," he said, breathless. "If you do, you'll be caught too." "My children are safe," she whispered. "But he's facing them alone." The boy's eyes softened with sorrow far too old for his years. "You don't understand. Hawkwind, he's more than a warrior. He is the last son of his line, the last to protect this canyon. He knew they'd come for him. Lark felt her chest clamp painfully. Then he should not face them alone. Another shout ripped through the passage, closer now, boots scraping, men cursing. "We have to block the entrance," the boy said. "We need stones, branches, anything to slow them." Lark blinked. "You're saying he's still fighting?" "Yes." The boy's mouth trembled. "But he can't hold them forever." Suddenly, River stepped forward. "Mama," he said firmly, "we should help. We're small, but we can move stones." Briar nodded fiercely. "Hawkwind saved us. We have to save him too." Ash wiped his tears and stood beside them. "We're brave," he whispered. Lark's throat closed. Her children, her beautiful, resilient children, were no longer just running for safety. They were standing for the man who had stood for them. "All right," Lark whispered, voice shaking. "We help him." The children ran to gather rocks. Lark pushed brush aside, building a barrier piece by piece, her hands bleeding, her arms trembling. Inside the cavern, the sounds of battle raged, violent, echoing, terrifying. "Hawkwind," she whispered, pressing her forehead to the cold stone, tears falling freely. "Hold on. We're here. We're with you." Because love, real love, didn't run. It fought. The battle within the cavern grew louder, shaking the walls around them. Lark's hands were raw from lifting stones, but she didn't stop. River and Briar pushed branches into the cracks of the entrance, while little Ash rolled boulders into place, each movement small but defiant. Every strike, every placement of debris felt like a heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. Through a narrow opening, Lark could just glimpse Hawkwind. He stood like a mountain in the flickering light, muscles tense, eyes scanning for threats, his knife dancing through shadows. Each movement was precise, but fatigue painted him in weariness. Bruises blossomed on his arms, blood streaked across his cheek, yet he fought with a quiet, unyielding courage that left her breathless. A loud crash echoed. Hawkwind had been thrown to the ground. Lark's stomach dropped. River screamed, running forward, but Lark caught his arm. "No, we can't go in. We have to trust him," she shouted, tears streaming down her face. The Apache boy standing by Lark grabbed her hand. "He's not alone. He feels us here. Every stone, every branch. He knows he's not forgotten." Lark nodded, drawing strength from the children beside her. Suddenly, the enemy pushed forward, men shouting in fury. The makeshift barricade shook under their force. A branch snapped. A rock tumbled. Briar cried out, clutching Lark's sleeve. But then something unexpected happened. Hawkwind roared, and in that roar was more than a warrior's fury. It was love. It was devotion. It was the promise that no one he cared for would fall while he drew breath. A surge of hope rippled through Lark. "He's not giving up," she whispered, gripping the edge of the stone, her heart pounding. "He's holding for us." The men faltered, their fear growing as the sudden unity of a mother and her children became clear. They had expected to break Hawkwind easily, but the resolve outside the cavern made him unstoppable. Lark saw him rise again, bloodied but unbowed, and suddenly every small rock, every branch they had placed became a part of his strength. Time seemed to slow. Hawkwind's blade flashed, the enemy staggered. The children's hands ached, but they pressed forward, shouting for him, cheering him on. Lark joined their voices, a chorus of love and courage that filled the canyon. The invaders' morale broke. Step by step, Hawkwind pushed them back toward the cavern's exit. Lark's chest heaved as she realized it. He was winning, not because he was alone, but because of them all. Finally, silence fell. Dust hung in the air. Hawkwind stood at the cavern mouth, bruised but victorious. Lark ran to him, wrapping her arms around his chest, tears mingling with sweat and blood. "You did it," she whispered, pressing her cheek against his, feeling the warmth of life and love in him. He bent down, brushing a lock of hair from her face, his voice rough but tender. "We did it. Together." River, Briar, and Ash tumbled into their embrace, giggling and sobbing at once. Even the Apache boy smiled, eyes shining. For the first time since the danger began, Lark allowed herself to believe. They were safe. And not only safe, they were alive because love had refused to let fear win. Hawkwind held them close, the canyon around them silent, a witness to courage, unity, and the unbreakable bonds of heart. And in that moment, Lark knew, whatever lay ahead, they could face it, together. The sun rose gently over the canyon, painting everything in soft gold. The battle was behind them, but the echoes lingered, bruises, scratches, and the weight of fear clung to their bodies. Lark sat on a fallen log, brushing dust from River's hair, while Hawkwind sat nearby, quietly tending to Briar's scraped knees with a cloth and water. "It's strange," Lark murmured, watching the sunlight scatter over the canyon walls. "After everything, it feels peaceful, almost unreal." Hawkwind glanced at her, his dark eyes softened by exhaustion and something deeper, relief, gratitude, and the quiet pride of survival. "It's real," he said simply. "We earned this peace." River, ever curious and brave, tugged at Lark's sleeve. "Mama, are we really safe now?" Lark smiled, squeezing his small hand. "Yes, sweetheart. For now, we are safe. And we will stay that way, together." The Apache boy wandered closer, carrying a small bundle of wildflowers he had gathered from the canyon floor. He handed it to Briar, who held them delicately as if they were treasure. "Flowers for new beginnings," he said softly. Briar looked up at Lark, eyes wide. "Do you think the bad men will come back?" Lark shook her head firmly. "No. They'll think twice now. But even if they did, we have each other, and we are stronger than we know." Hawkwind knelt beside them, resting a hand on each child's shoulder. "And that strength comes from love," he said, "from standing together. We didn't fight this battle alone. Every small hand, every cheer, every brave heart mattered." Lark felt a lump in her throat. In the midst of fear, they had discovered something extraordinary. The bond between them wasn't just a shield, it was a force that could move mountains, calm storms, and mend broken hearts. Later, as the canyon began to hum with life again, they worked together to repair the remnants of the barricade, not as a defense, but as a symbol of resilience. Every stone they placed, every branch they set, reminded them of the courage that had carried them through the night. Hawkwind finally stood, dusting off his clothes. He looked at Lark with a gentle smile. "You have a heart that inspires bravery, Lark. You didn't just protect the children. You reminded me of what matters." Lark felt warmth rush to her cheeks, but she shook her head, laughing softly. "We reminded each other. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Love gives strength, hope gives courage, and together, nothing can break us." As evening approached, the canyon glowed with a serene golden light. River and Briar played quietly near a stream, their laughter soft but vibrant. Ash and the Apache boy shared stories, weaving imagination with reality, their voices mingling like a delicate song. Lark and Hawkwind sat side by side, hands intertwined. The weight of fear had lifted, replaced by a quiet certainty that their hearts were tethered in ways stronger than any danger. For the first time in months, Lark allowed herself to breathe fully, to smile freely, and to believe that love, not fear, would guide them forward. and as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the canyon in hues of fire and gold, Lark knew in her heart the journey ahead would not always be easy, but it would always be worth it, because they would face it together. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of wildflowers and sun-warmed earth. Lark woke to the gentle rustle of leaves and the laughter of river and briar playing near the stream. Hawkwind was already awake, quietly gathering firewood, his movements steady and calm. Lark rose, smoothing her dress and stepping toward him. "You never sleep, do you?" she teased gently. Hawkwind glanced back, a soft smile playing on his lips. Someone has to make sure the world doesn't fall apart while the children dream. His voice was warm, carrying a weight of unspoken emotion. They worked side by side, repairing a small cabin that had been damaged during the earlier chaos. Each plank placed and each nail hammered seemed less about survival and more about creating a home, a sanctuary where laughter could bloom freely and hearts could heal. River tugged at Lark's skirt, eyes bright. "Mama, look, Briar and I built a fort." Lark knelt beside him, brushing dust from his hair. "It's amazing," she said, genuinely impressed. "You two are a perfect team." She glanced toward Briar, whose face was glowing with pride. "It's beautiful how you work together." The Apache boy, whose name Lark had learned was Tyon, approached quietly, offering a small carved wooden bird he had made. "For your heart," he said simply. Lark took it gently, feeling the care imbued in each delicate feather. "That's perfect," Lark whispered, touched by the gesture. She placed it on the windowsill, where it caught the morning light, glowing like a tiny beacon of hope. As the day wore on, laughter mingled with the soft sounds of the canyon. Hawkwind, usually so reserved, joined the children in their games, showing a side of him that was tender and playful. Lark watched, heart swelling with something she hadn't allowed herself to feel fully in years: peace. Later, as the sun began to dip, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Hawkwind sat beside Lark on the porch steps. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "about everything we've been through, about how fragile life is, and how strong love can be." Lark's fingers brushed his, an electric but gentle spark passing between them. "I know," she said softly. "I feel it too. Every day, every moment with you, the children, even this canyon. It feels like we've been given a second chance." Hawkwind's eyes, usually so guarded, softened. "I've never believed in fate," he admitted, "but maybe some things are meant to be. Some people are meant to find each other and build something worth protecting." Lark leaned her head on his shoulder, heart thumping in quiet happiness. "Then let's promise," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "that we'll protect this. Not just the children, not just this place, but us, whatever comes." He took her hand in both of his, pressing it to his chest. "I promise," he said firmly. "We'll face everything together. Every fear, every challenge, every joy." As twilight settled over the canyon, River and Briar ran toward them, carrying small lanterns. The flickering light danced across their faces, casting shadows that seemed to whisper of a future filled with hope, laughter, and love. Lark looked at Hawkwind, at the children, at the canyon that had witnessed their trials and triumphs. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe wholeheartedly that no matter what lay ahead, their hearts had found a home in each other. The golden light of the setting sun embraced them all, and Lark knew in her soul this was only the beginning of a story that would forever be theirs, one of love, courage, and the beauty of second chances. Morning arrived like a gentle promise. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dancing patterns on the ground as Lark walked along the stream. The laughter of River and Briar echoed behind her, but her thoughts were heavier today, memories she hadn't touched in years rising unbidden, stirring old fears she thought she'd buried. Hawkwind appeared beside her quietly, as if sensing her unease. "You're thinking too much," he said softly, his hand brushing hers for a fleeting, grounding moment. "The past is a story, not a chain." Lark shook her head, a small bitter smile tugging at her lips. "It's hard not to remember, Hawk. Sometimes it feels like the shadows of what we've lost will always be closer than the light we have now." He looked at her, his gaze steady, warm, full of the unspoken love that had been growing quietly between them. "Then let the light we've found push those shadows away. Not today, not tomorrow, but every day we choose to stay together." They wandered deeper into the canyon, where wildflowers bloomed in defiance of the harsh terrain. Hawkwind picked a small violet and tucked it behind Lark's ear, a gesture simple but intimate. Lark laughed softly, feeling a weight lift from her chest. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel safe, truly safe. Later, the children ran toward them, carrying a bundle of freshly picked berries. River's cheeks were streaked with dirt, Briar's shirt smudged with juice, but their eyes sparkled with innocent pride. "Mama, Hawk, look what we found!" Lark knelt to embrace them, her heart overflowing. "You two are amazing," she said, brushing crumbs from their hair. "The world is brighter because of you." Hawkwind knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And we're stronger because we face it together." His voice was steady, a balm against the lingering ache of the past. That evening, around a crackling fire, Lark shared a story from her childhood, a painful memory she had never told anyone. Hawkwind listened without interruption, his hand holding hers in a firm, reassuring grip. When she finished, tears streaked her cheeks, but she felt lighter, released from the burden she had carried alone for so long. "You're brave," Hawkwind said simply. "Braver than anyone I've ever known. And you don't have to carry it alone anymore. Not ever." For the first time, Lark let herself truly cry, not from sadness, but from relief. Relief that love could heal wounds so deep they seemed eternal. Relief that trust could grow from patience and shared pain. Relief that hearts broken long ago could be made whole again. River and Briar, sensing the shift, crept closer, placing small hands on her shoulders. Lark hugged them, and Hawkwind pulled them all together into a circle, a living, breathing testament to resilience and love. As night fell and stars glittered above the canyon like scattered diamonds, Lark whispered, maybe happiness isn't just a fleeting thing. Maybe it's something we build, brick by brick, together." Hawkwind pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Then let's build it," he said, "forever." And under the vast, endless sky, surrounded by the warmth of family and love, Lark finally allowed herself to believe, not just in hope, not just in second chances, but in a future where every scar was a story, and every story led to joy. The calm of their canyon life was about to be tested. One morning, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the hills, though the sky above was clear. Hawkwind frowned as he scanned the horizon. "Storm's coming," he said. His voice carried that rare edge of worry that made Lark pay attention immediately. The next day, clouds gathered, dark and heavy, stretching across the valley like a gray blanket. The wind whispered through the trees with a restless urgency, and River tugged at Lark's sleeve. "Mama, will it be scary?" she asked, eyes wide. Lark knelt down, holding both River and Briar close. "Storms are scary sometimes," she admitted, "but we're stronger together. We'll keep each other safe." Her voice, soft yet steady, was a lifeline in the gathering gloom. By afternoon, the wind had picked up, carrying the scent of rain and distant danger. Hawkwind and Lark worked side by side, reinforcing the small home they had built, gathering supplies, and ensuring the children were secure. Every shared glance, every touch, reminded them that their love wasn't just comforting. It was a force that made them unshakable. As night fell, the storm arrived in full fury. Rain pelted the roof like endless drum beats, and the wind howled through the canyon, rattling every branch. Lightning illuminated fleeting shadows in the room, making the small cabin feel both vulnerable and alive. River clutched Lark's hand, trembling. Briar's eyes were wide, but he tried to appear brave, leaning against Hawkwind's side. Lark whispered soothing words, stroking River's hair, and Hawkwind wrapped his arms around them all. "We're safe because we face it together," he said. "Nothing can break this circle." Hours passed. The storm raged, relentless. And for a moment, even Lark felt the weight of fear pressing in. Memories of loss, the ones she had fought so hard to leave behind, tried to surface. But then she looked at Hawkwind, at River, at Briar, and a surge of determination replaced the panic. They were her anchor, and she theirs. Morning came, and with it, the aftermath. The storm had carved small paths through the canyon, uprooted trees, and left puddles in every hollow. Yet their cabin stood strong. Outside, the world was wet and battered, but the family emerged together, muddy boots and rain-drenched clothes, hearts still fiercely intact. River ran ahead, splashing through puddles with Briar following. Lark laughed, a sound that mingled with the dripping of leaves and the birds returning to the soaked branches. Hawkwind caught her hand, lifting it to his lips. "See? We survived," he said with a grin that made her heart lift despite the exhaustion. "Yes," Lark agreed, smiling through the mud on her cheeks. "And together, we can survive anything." In the wake of the storm, their bond felt renewed, tempered like steel by shared struggle. Every challenge they faced only deepened their love, proving that happiness wasn't the absence of storms, but the courage to face them hand in hand. That night, as the stars peeked timidly through scattered clouds, Lark whispered into the calm, "No matter what comes, we'll endure, we'll thrive, and we'll always have each other." Hawkwind held her close, whispering, "Forever. Nothing can take that away." The storm had passed, leaving the canyon shimmering with fresh life. Dew clung to the grass, and the sun pierced the lingering clouds, painting golden streaks across the rugged landscape. It was a new beginning, not just for the land, but for Lark, Hawkwind, and their children. In the quiet of the morning, Lark wandered to the edge of the canyon, River skipping ahead, Briar close behind. The storm had reminded her how fleeting life could be, how precious each moment was. She breathed deeply, letting the crisp air fill her lungs, and made a silent promise to herself. She would no longer wait for happiness. She would claim it, fiercely and fully. Hawkwind emerged from the cabin with a basket of fresh bread, the aroma mingling with the earthy scent of rain-soaked soil. "Morning, my brave ones," he greeted, ruffling River's hair. "I think today calls for adventure." River's eyes sparkled. "Adventure? Really?" she squealed, bouncing on her heels. Briar grinned, already imagining the possibilities. Lark smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. Adventure didn't have to be grand. It could be as simple as exploring the hills, discovering hidden streams, or learning to climb the tallest trees in the canyon. Every small joy now felt monumental, a celebration of life regained. They set out together, a family woven from resilience and laughter. Hawkwind led them along a winding trail, showing River how to skip stones across a glimmering pond. Briar chased dragonflies, giggling as they darted through the shafts of sunlight. Lark paused often, taking in their laughter, imprinting these moments into memory. The joy felt uncontainable, spilling over into every corner of their lives. By midday, they reached a sun-drenched meadow dotted with wildflowers. Lark knelt among the blossoms, letting the children weave crowns of petals. Hawkwind watched, his eyes soft with admiration and love. "We've built something beautiful here," he said quietly, so only Lark could hear. Lark's hand found his, fingers interlocking. "Not just the place. Us," she replied. "This family. It's everything." As the sun began its descent, casting long golden shadows, Lark realized that happiness wasn't a distant dream or a fleeting wish. It was woven into the smallest moments: a child's laughter, a shared glance, the warmth of hands held in trust. They had survived storms, loss, and fear, but now they were free to embrace life in all its vivid colors. That evening, back at the cabin, Hawkwind surprised Lark with a small handmade swing for River and Briar. They played until twilight, their silhouettes dancing against the fading light. Lark watched them, a tear of gratitude slipping down her cheek. Every hardship had led to this moment, a moment of pure, untainted joy. Finally, as stars began to sprinkle the sky, Lark and Hawkwind sat side by side on the porch, arms around each other. River and Briar lay on the grass, pointing out constellations with wide-eyed wonder. Lark leaned her head on Hawkwind's shoulder, whispering softly, "We've made it, haven't we?" Hawkwind kissed her temple. "We have, and this is only the beginning." In that quiet golden night, the family felt unbreakable, their hearts full of hope, and their souls singing with the promise of tomorrow. Dreams weren't distant, they were alive, blooming like the wild flowers around them, and together they would nurture every one of them. The morning sun rose over the canyon with a gentle warmth, spilling golden light across the cabin and the wild flowers surrounding it. Birds sang their melodious songs, and the soft rustle of leaves whispered promises of new beginnings. This morning felt different. It wasn't just another day. It was the culmination of every struggle, every tear, every triumph that had led Lark, Hawkwind, River, and Briar to this moment. Lark stood at the edge of the porch, a mug of steaming tea warming her hands. She watched her children chase butterflies through the meadow, their laughter mingling with the wind. The past months had been filled with storms, both literal and of the heart, but now life had settled into a rhythm of joy and peace. Every smile on her children's faces was a victory. Every shared glance with Hawkwind a reminder that love could endure anything. Hawkwind stepped beside her, carrying a small wooden box. "I thought today deserved something special," he said, his eyes twinkling. Curious, Lark opened it to find delicate hand-carved charms, one for each of them, symbols of protection, love, and unity. "They're beautiful," Lark whispered, touched by the gesture. River and Briar rushed over, each picking their charm with awe and reverence. "This is ours forever," River declared, holding hers close to her heart. They spent the morning preparing the meadow for a small gathering. Lark's neighbors, who had once been strangers, were now friends, drawn together by shared stories and quiet acts of kindness. Everyone brought something: flowers, baked bread, laughter, and warmth. The air was filled with music, song, and the unspoken understanding that home was not just a place, but the people who filled it. As the sun reached its zenith, Hawkwind took Lark's hand, leading her to the center of the meadow. He knelt down, heart steady and eyes full of unwavering love. "Lark," he said softly, "we've faced storms that could have torn us apart, but together, we've built something stronger than any fear. Will you continue this journey with me? not just as my love, but as my forever? Tears welled in Lark's eyes, but her smile was radiant. Yes, she breathed, her voice trembling with joy. Forever, Hawkwind. The meadow erupted in cheers as they embraced, the children clapping, friends laughing, and the wind carrying the sound of love across the canyon. It was not just a proposal, it was a celebration of survival, of family, and of hearts that refused to give up. As the day faded into a star-lit evening, they danced under the canopy of the night sky. Fireflies wove around them like tiny sparks of magic. Hawkwind spun Lark, their laughter echoing, and for a moment the world felt endless, filled with hope and possibility. Finally, as they settled on the grass, River and Briar nestled between them, the stars reflected in their wide eyes. Lark whispered, "We've made a home, not just here, but in each other." Hawkwind kissed her forehead, "And that home will grow, as long as we keep believing in love, hope, and each other." The canyon stood silent around them, yet the world seemed full of life, love, and promise. Together, they had found happiness, a treasure born from courage and heart. And in that embrace, Lark realized some stories don't just end, they flourish, forever blooming in the hearts of those who dare to love. The family stayed there long into the night, the stars above a testament to their journey. They had faced darkness, and now, together, they basked in the brilliance of a life reclaimed. The canyon, their hearts, and the world beyond held infinite possibilities, and they would face them, hand in hand, forever.